this evening's speaker. I had the opportunity to share her story in San Francisco. And she had the most amazing Al-Anon message I've ever heard. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman, and it's an honor, and I'm very privileged she's here. She's from California, and here I'm going to bring out Theresa.
Okay. Up. Good. All righty. Good evening, everyone. My name's Theresa, grateful member of Al-Anon. Got some familiar faces out there. This is a good way to get a bunch of alcoholics in an Al-Anon meeting. I wanted to see how many people were leaving when they said, Al-Anon speaker. Sorry, not AA. Oh, my goodness. You all here. Ha ha. I am nervous as usual. My heart is pounding. To those who had one day, congratulations. What pressure? No pressure. Have you stand up and the oldest person give you a book. If you take a drink now, man, I don't know what to tell you. In front of 1,200 people. I hope you weren't just stopping by. I love those countdowns. They do it to people with, one day. You could have just came with a friend. And your friend told you not to drink today, And I'm in Miami. That's the first time I seen a yawo get up for one day. There was a yawo. I seen a yawo in here. Most people don't realize what a yawo is. A gentleman that wore all white who had one day. Congratulations. So he's a yawo to me, and on white and beads and our tradition. And I'm like, that's because I'm in Miami. Bunch of Cubans out here, and that was good to see. So congratulations to the yawocito who took his one day. My goodness, and my heart is always pounding. I'm nervous. I gotta pee. I gotta go to the bathroom. I always think my period's starting. I know that's really graphic, but that's what's in my head, and I gotta get that out. If I don't get it out, that's all I'm gonna be hearing, and I don't hear nothing else. Oh, I'm sick to my stomach. Oh, stop and pause. It is an honor and a privilege to be asked to speak. I am always so humble. Think about Al-Anon, sitting up, looking over the water. My room is so beautiful. Lori's been great, and everyone in the committee has been wonderful, and I'm treated with such love. And I'm going to get mushy. I bought tissues. And I take that in, and there's still a part of me that feels I don't deserve that. And there's times I go, why are you doing that to me? A girl like me? I don't deserve any of that, because I come from that place that I don't deserve any love. I don't deserve any kindness. And so when I receive it, still to this day, I'm in awe of it. And I still question at times, I deserve that. I deserve the treatment, the respect, because I certainly didn't come from that, and you'll get to hear that. I want to welcome anyone who is new and tell you that this program does work if you work it. What they call a double winner, yeah? I don't know. I just know that when I'm in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And when I'm in the rooms of Al-Anon, I am in the rooms of Al-Anon. And I am definitely a grateful member of Al-Anon. I owe so much of who I am today because of Al-Anon and my life. I am grateful that there was a woman, an old-timer, who when I was 5 days in that other program looked at me and said, oh, honey, you need to go to Al-Anon. And she took me to an Al-Anon meeting, and I've been going ever since. It'll be actually one day at a time, 17 years at the end of this month. And so, thank you. Changed my life. Those old-timers, I definitely want to recognize all the old-timers. I say I still want what you have. I still watch you. I look at June 41 sitting down having dinner with her and just listening, and And I just like this presence that old-timers have. They have a sense of confidence and comfort in their own skin, and they're usually the most quiet person in the room and the one that's always of service. And I see them still sweeping the floors and putting up the chairs and extending their hand. And I was taught, if I want what you have, I do what you do. And so I thank you so much. Oh, goodness. I'm going to share very quickly. How do I identify? I always say I was born addicted. My whole family are alcoholics and addicts. Everyone in my family has died as a result of this disease, whether it's kidney failure, cirrhosis of the liver, falling down, cracking your skull open, getting shot, ODing. My mother drank and used, was in and out of mental institutions, always slitting her wrists, trying to jump out of windows. And I was also physically abused, emotionally abused, spiritually abused, sexually abused by both men and women. My body never belonged to me. It was whoever wanted it had it. Certainly didn't have anyone around to give me guidance or protection. Talk about abandonment. And I grew up very fast. I didn't play with Barbie doll, hopscotch, jump rope. I didn't do any of those things. I didn't play with toys. I remember getting Barbie dolls and Cher, Sonny and Cher, and Donnie and Marie. I remember I had those. And I would just sit them up, and I just made sure they were neat. And I would just put them on the shelf. I would never play with them. I even got a Barbie van or something, and I didn't play with her either, the van. I just set it there. And that just gives you a little bit of an idea of where I come from. You know, I thought it was normal for people to drink all the time. I thought it was normal for people to be abusive and to talk to me any kind of way, and I thought my other name was stupid and idiot and incompetent and get out of my face are the things that I heard. Man, when I just think about, when I talk about what it was like, it's so not like that today. I never thought anything was wrong with that. And always says, as horrific as it sounds, I had checked out of my body a long time ago. I was not present for any of those experiences. I was numb. I hovered over myself. I detached completely. I put a smile on my face. I act like all was well. There's nothing wrong. I remember going to Catholic school, putting on my uniform, talking about it's all good and sassy and acting like I was big and bad and tough and I didn't need nobody. And I left home at 14 and had my own business, still going on today. It's a non-profit agency. Certainly I'm not with it, but it's in Harlem, New York. I started my own non-profit agency at 14 years old. Left home, went with a man who was 26, which was 11 years my senior. Beat me on a daily basis. You couldn't have told me that wasn't love. That was the requirement. If he didn't beat me, then he didn't love me. Because where I come from, my brother was kicking me in my stomach all the time and smacking me around, and everybody else was doing it. And so when I went with him and he did it, I was like, that's what everybody does. And I remember that I never cried about it. I didn't shun from it. I didn't hide. I would stand there like a punching bag. I thought I was tough because, you know, I could handle that. I could just stand there and he could pound on me and I'd bounce right back, you know, and I'd be like, damn, you ain't tired yet, you know. And I've always been petite. And I'd be like, you ain't finished yet? Because I really want to watch the rest of this television program. Like, when are you going to get done? Like, smacking me. Like, what's up with that? And I would only ask him, please don't hit me in the face. I was always so vain. It was like, don't hit me in the face. Whatever anybody wants to do to me, just don't touch the face. Because I need it to look perfect and flawless. And I can cover up other parts of my body, but I can't cover up my face. And so I wasn't the type of Al-Anon that used to try to get the alcoholic to stop drinking. I was the one that supplied it. I knew that they needed it. And I remember he would do cocaine, smoke weed, and drink. And I made sure I got it just for him, waiting for him all the time. Even my mom, I went out and got my mother Heineken. I always remember what she drinks. She drank Heineken or Michelob and her Salem cigarettes. And I found the best dealers in the neighborhood so that she can get her weed and her cocaine. I wanted her to have the best. My aunt, I always say when she died in Puerto Rico, I remember I made sure she had her Budweiser can in her coffin because she could not die without it. That was my responsibility, was to make sure she died with dignity with her Budweiser thing. I was like, oh, hold up, she needs a Budweiser. Hold on a minute. You know, I was just there, and her daughter, Nancy, is just like her mother. And I remember her telling me, I was just there. And she said, you know, remember when you did that for Mommy? You gave her Budweiser. And I said, yeah. She said, you better make sure you put Coors in mine. I said, okay, Mama, I'll do that for you. And I'm going to make sure that happens for her because that's what she wants. And so this is the life that I lived. And I lived on the edge, and I took a lot of risk, and I detached emotionally. I always say I didn't know how to love you, and I definitely did not know how to love me. I didn't have any self-respect, and I didn't have respect for others. I looked for people who were less than me so that I could feel better than. I had issues with authority figures, of course. I didn't like anybody telling me what to do. That's why I owned my own business at 14. I wasn't working for nobody. I never wanted to work for anyone. All of my jobs were always had to be a place of seniority, whether it's CEO, vice president, salary, or I'm creating this, or management. I never, it's only been in recovery that I've actually had to punch a clock. That's a trip, but anyway. That I've had to punch a clock and follow direction. I just thought about, I remember when I first started working like that, and my sponsor told me that I couldn't give any advice unless somebody asked me. That's hard. And I'd be sitting there, and they'd be like fussing over something and not trying, they don't know how to do it. I'm like, please ask me, please ask me. Please, I know the answer. Learn how to mind my business. And so this is the life. I just give you an idea of how I qualify. I'm definitely an adult child of an alcoholic, as we call it. And of course, as I said, I didn't think anything was wrong with it. And that went on for a very long time. All of my relationships were a reflection of the relationship that I had with my mother, my father, my cousins, my brother, everybody in my family. Whether it was a man or a woman, I went with both. Because I was molested by both, and I love to share that. I didn't know. I mean, if you were nice to me, I went with you. I didn't care. I wasn't looking into physique or whether you had charisma. I had no requirements. The only requirement was that you be alcoholic. Because I know how to deal with an alcoholic. It's my only requirement. I went out with a Mason once. I didn't know what to do with that guy. I didn't know what to do with him. He was a trip. He was all supportive, and I didn't know what to do with him. He wanted me to be an Eastern Star, and I don't know what he was talking about. And he would say stuff like, "Oh, I'm here for you." I was like, "Oh no, boring." He would make dinner and want to have dinner together, I don't know any of that. So I wasn't with him for long. Poor guy. And I tried to, make him toxic, I did. I was trying really hard to do things. I was like, you should try crack, He was like, I don't know about that. It makes you a sin, and it doesn't seem good for your heart. I was like, oh, come on, I remember that. Smoke a joint or something, dude. Loosen up. Well, that went as far as a healthy relationship that I ever had. Was with him. And definitely I went out of my way to make sure I was with no one else that healthy. I definitely was lost when I was ever in a relationship like that. I came to do the program in March 29th, 1990. I came in by a Greyhound bus because life was getting pretty intense. It was getting really scary, and really what was happening was that life was in session, and I didn't have any coping skills. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to detach from it anymore. I didn't know how to separate myself. I didn't know how to deal with the pain and the emptiness and the darkness that was merging from inside of me. I couldn't medicate it enough, or I couldn't work hard enough. I'm definitely a workaholic. That wasn't making it any better. Relationships weren't fixing it. I couldn't put enough of my time and energy in you so that I can get lost. that wasn't working anymore. I couldn't put on enough makeup, enough wardrobe to hide this little girl inside who was full of shame, who was lost, and who was empty. And I came out to California because my mother got sober. She's 20 years sober. And I have a cousin who's 20 years sober. And actually later on have an uncle who celebrated 12 years of sobriety. And I came out because I saw something different in them. Certainly my mother, the woman that I had known, had changed in so many ways. It's almost like the story when Ebby came to see Bill, and he saw something in this man that looked familiar, yet there was something different. And he knew that whatever that was different, it wasn't him. And I saw that in my mother. I knew that there was something about her that was not the same. Yet she looked familiar, but I knew that it wasn't her who was doing it. And so I came out seeking whatever you had, and I was introduced to this lovely program. I love the 12-step program. I love the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I love Courage to Change. I love all of the literature. And I began to come into the rooms, and you told my story. You began to disrobe me. You began to tell my secrets, things that I thought nobody else was going through. Because you see, pretty much we suffer from this thing called isolation. And only me, right? I'm the only one going through this. And I suffer from this thing called self-pity and victimization. And I lived in a state of victim consciousness. And I blamed everything and everybody for every situation, for every level of misery that I had. I never took responsibility for any of it. I always said you were the problem. It was your fault. If you just act right, if you just did what I told you to do, if everything would be exactly the way I wanted it to be, life would be okay. And I was unsuccessful. And I came into these rooms, and I came into Al-Anon to hear that there were so many people like me. There's also a lot of adult children of alcoholics who got to share these secrets, these things about how many times you were scared to hear the footsteps of somebody walking up towards your door, and you just didn't know what to do, that you couldn't breathe. The fear, I got to describe fear. I got to begin to describe and put a label on my feelings because I had never felt before. I remember I used to have to get that poster that had all the pictures on it, you know, with the smiley faces and the sad. He goes, how are you feeling today? And I would have that poster and literally have to go, somebody say, how are you feeling? And I go, 1 minute, you know, and I would have to look at the picture and go, look at the mirror, a little disdained, you know, and stuff like that. And I was kind of, that was cool. And so I came in to be taught, and when I talk about Al-Anon, I talk a lot about I came in emotionally an infant, and I needed to be told how to live and what to do. You see, I had some tools in my life growing up, and those tools no longer serve me. You know, we talk about being a survivor. Yes, I was a survivor, but I wasn't surviving anymore. And now I needed to know, how do I live? How do I have relationships with people? How do I even communicate and talk to somebody? How do I choose what is healthy and loving? I used to hear healthy and loving. What is that? I don't even know what that looks like. I've never really seen it, and I didn't even know that the Mason guy was kind of healthy. I didn't even relate it to him being healthy. I just thought he was boring and he was an idiot and he needed help. That's how I saw him. I didn't know that that's what's called healthy. I didn't know what loving and supportive people were. I didn't know what safe was. And I came into Al-Anon, and they began to show me and to teach me. And they began to have Theresa look at Theresa. I could no longer point the finger and blame, I don't know how long I was here, and blame this on my mom. If my mother was different, I wouldn't have to be sitting up in these rooms in these meetings. I could no longer blame my family. I now became responsible for where Theresa stood in her life. I found out about this thing called disease of alcoholism. As we read earlier, it is a family disease, and it's infectious, and it spreads in every direction. People read cunning, baffling, and powerful. It is so intense that it robs fathers from their homes and mothers from their homes, and children run astray, and grandparents and aunts and uncles. And we got people who used to be employed now are no longer employed. And something begins to happen. And then now we talk about the adult child of the alcoholic. If those Al-Anon who have never taken a drink before, we still think like the alcoholic, we still act like the alcoholic. My brother never touched a lick once. I tried to give him marijuana. on his 17th birthday, and he didn't like it. He was like, wah, wah, wah. He was like, I don't think I like this much. I was always trying to get people high. You notice that? I'm like, here, smoke a joint, dude. And my brother's just as sick as he could be. I remember when I did my inventory, my sponsor had looked at me and said, why would I think he should be something other than what he is? He grew up in the same home I grew up in. The same home I grew up in. Man. And so I had to do some inside work. I had to learn how to take contrary action. I had to learn to start changing my way of thinking and being. I had to learn how to be just a human being. I was always a human doing. I had to learn about boundaries. We hear about that. What is that, a boundary? I would set them and then move them. I would go, you can't cross this. Okay, you can't cross this. All right. Okay, now this time, you really can't cross it. And be like, man, why can't you get the line thing? And I would set it and change it again and change it again and change it again. And I would play hangman with people's lives. It was my girlfriend who pointed out to me that I used to play hangman. I remember she had said to me, we went out to a club and she did something and I didn't say a word. Because that's what I do. You're supposed to know better. I never tell people what's going on. You're supposed to know that you don't do that. And I give you that look and you need to figure it out. You don't do that. And I remember her telling me, don't play hangman with my life. If you don't like something that I did, you need to tell me. Because if you don't tell me, I'm going to keep doing it. And she said, you playing hangman. That's what I would do. I would let you do something and I would draw the little head. And then you would do something else and then I'd do the little body. And be smiling until I just hang you and cut you off and you don't know what happened. And I begin to start disrespecting you. And I begin to start detaching from you. And I have no compassion and no feelings. And I begin to mistreat you a little bit. It's because I'm hanging you. And if I like you a little bit more than someone else, I'll do the fingers and the toes. She was like, don't be doing that with my life. You need to tell somebody. And I had to learn how to say, you know, that hurt me. I was uncomfortable when you did that. Could you not do that? And then I had to learn that after doing that, you have a choice. And then I have a choice. You know, my whole thing was I would get to a place and go, you need to do this. I don't like that, so you need to stop doing it. And then make you. Be sitting there all quiet like, yo, don't be doing that. And I make you doing it, whether it's by abusing you, criticizing you, belittling you. Oh, I'm so good with the tongue and the mouth and making people feel small because I'm small and I'm insecure and I can't let you do that, so I need to minimize who you are so that I could feel bigger. And then I learned that you get to have a choice too. And I get to say, you know, that makes me uncomfortable, and you get to say, oh well. And then I get to say, well, then I don't have to hang out with you. And that's okay. Man, there's so much work I've had to do. I always say I've done the uncomfortable until it became comfortable. I had to take the steps and apply them into my life. I had to learn how to breathe them, taste them, smell them, and digest them. I've had to do contrary action, go against everything and every fiber of my being what it tells me to do. I had to allow myself to feel and crawl up in a ball sometimes and grieve and cry. I had lots to grieve about. I was sharing earlier, I did that topic, right? Childhood abuse and addiction. Oh, that was deep this morning. Man. I had to learn that it was okay for me to cry. It took me 3 years to cry around here. And I remember when I finally did, my sponsor was like, damn, it's about time. I was going to cut you and see if you had blood. I swore you had oil up in there. And I was like, I ain't no punk. I'm from the projects. Don't be crying. I'm a Puerto Rican girl from the projects. I don't cry. I don't need nobody. And I came in here and I needed to learn how to be vulnerable. I needed to find this thing called compassion. I love understanding the true nature of alcoholism. The true nature of this thing called disease that we all suffer from. You know, I share with a class who are not familiar with alcoholics and help them to understand so that we can have a little bit of compassion. We will never know what that is when a mother is standing at a door and the daughter says, please don't go. Mommy, please stay. If you love me, you will stay. And mommy can't stay. Because mommy needs a drink or mommy needs a hit and she can't stay. Unless we have been there and we truly understand this disease called alcoholism, that will not make sense. We will say that that's a horrible mother to leave her child in such a way. But she has no other choice. I've had to do a lot of healing, a lot of forgiving, most importantly, myself. You know, just recently, this is what's kind of really hanging over me. My uncle, who's one of my biggest abusers, just died on December 15th. And he called me in June, and he said, I have 3 to 6 months to live. And you're my beneficiary, and you'll be handling all of my affairs. And that's the one that had 12 years, clean and sober. And I had been hearing from my uncle that he was going to die since I was 8 years old. He had been holding that over my head since I was 8 and had me do all kind of things because I was his beneficiary and he was going to die. And I better fulfill whatever he needed to fulfill to make his last days nice. I've been hearing that since I was 8. And I'm 41 years old and I'm driving and he makes that call and he says it one more time. And this time it was true. We talk about the healing process and how important it is. I would say I put one hand in this program and one hand in God. Because that was tough. First of all, I didn't believe him. So I needed to go to the hospital and talk to the doctor. And that's growth. Because normally I'd be like, okay. But I learned today I could find out what's true and what isn't. Because you see, I live in this world that's called delusional. I can't tell the truth from the false, and my perception is a little skewed and it's off. And I go to the doctor, and I was waiting for the doctor to say, oh no, he's not going to die. He just has back pain, and he's asking for morphine. But the doctor said, nope, he's dying, and there's nothing else we can do for him, and he needs hospice. And oh man, was that a dance. Talk about Al-Anon stuff. I am a real good caretaker. I take care of my mother who has Alzheimer's and strokes. She calls me in one day 47, 50 times to ask me what day it is. I have a brother who is suffering from a rare disease, and I take care of him and his 2 boys, Everett and Maddox, who are 4 and 8. My father has Parkinson's and emphysema. And now my uncle calls and says his liver, the cancer, gives him 3 to 6 months to live. And I'm going, I'm the baby. I'm the baby. Thank God for this program. To teach me that I don't have to do it all. That I don't have to run and jump. It releases the guilt about me not having to run at every single beck and whim that people ask me for. I've been in a relationship for 16 years. 16 years in a relationship with this woman that I completely babied her and spoiled her and then turned around and go, why don't you act right? I was always like, you don't have to work. I was always into working, making money. So she would work, come home with like $200 or $300. I'm like, buy a blouse. I don't know what to do with that. Now I'm not working, and I'm like, where's the $300? And she's like, I bought a blouse. I'm like, you don't even like think of the rent? And she's like, no. Am I supposed to? You never told me I had to. So we're in trouble. But see, my sponsor gets to point that out to me. I don't get to complain about the nerve of her. She's like, you done groomed that girl. You picked her. That's the way you wanted it. Now we got to work on that. And I got to find that if she even wants to. She could be really comfortable in that space. And that's what we're doing right now in that relationship, trying to figure that one out. What am I going to do now? 16 years, I've created a monster. I love her so much. I do. I love her. Because she's exactly the way she's supposed to be. What I love about this program is I don't get to just complain about her, and I don't get to talk about her. I get to talk about Theresa, and what part do I have to play in that situation? Just like in that same relationship when I was with that man when I was 14 years old, and he used to beat me. I had to go back and make amends to that man. I had to make amends to him because I didn't have a right to hate him. Because I knew exactly who he was. He fit the resume. I chose him. Everyone in my life I have chosen because there's a reward and an exchange. I need to be a victim, so therefore I need you to victimize me. I need to be abandoned, so I need you to leave me. Because that's what I know. And so I came into this program to decide that Theresa needs to change, so therefore I can attract something different in my life. And to have a different resume. I remember I had to write down a list of what I wanted in a relationship. Everything I wanted in a person. And then my sponsor had me look at that list and ask me, are you that? She said, it is arrogant of you to ask somebody to be something you can't even be. Huh. And then when I found out I needed to work on those areas, and I began becoming that. And I found out that I had been looking for me all along. I have been looking for me all along. I used to hear, let us love you so you can learn to love yourself. And I've come to love me in a way that's just so awesome. I was told that I needed to have a higher power in my life and that you weren't it. And I wasn't it. I mean, I remember my sponsor had me literally stand outside at night and say, make it day. The scary part was that I tried. I was like, hold up. I'm going to show her. Wait a minute. Day, make it day. I so wanted to prove to her that I was the God omnipotent. I love her for that. Because I couldn't make a day and I couldn't make the flower grow and I had to start learning how not to give people all the power in my life and have them rent so much space in my heart and in my spirit. I had to find a loving God in my life today that is different than a God that I had before. That was really tough. Let me say, God let so many things happen to me. How could they be a God? Because I also grew up in a family where there was a lot of priests and priestesses in a Yoruba tradition and an African tradition. My father is one of the oldest in the United States. I've also become a priestess in that tradition. And I just couldn't understand where was God in all that. And they were doing so many things to me. And so you taught me that I can have a God of my own understanding. That I can have a loving God. That all I needed to do was to be willing to believe that there was one. And that I could begin with a blank page and begin to create one. And that through your experience I can learn to have one that is different than the one that I came in with. And I have a God today that is just so awesome. So huge and loves Theresa and has taught me that I am a child of God. I am deserving of nothing but greatness and wholeness and beauty. And that I stand tall. That I'm deserving of love of loving myself, that I can learn to be patient and tolerant with myself and with you. Oh, it takes so much sometimes to muster that up. You know, the theme is sunlight of the Spirit, and I look at that and I'm like, I worked really hard for that. I remember hearing, you block from the sunlight of the Spirit, you block from the sunlight of the Spirit. I need a clean house. I wanted a clean house so bad, and I ran and I cleaned house, and I'm not blocked from the sunlight of the Spirit today, and it's such an awesome feeling that I know God is. When I look in the mirror, that's what I see. I don't see an ugly girl. I'm not full of all that shame. And I was saying with my uncle, we danced that dance for 6 months. I learned the gift of forgiveness and healing with him. I remember even saying, I can no longer help you because this abuse is too much. And today in this program, I learned to take care of Theresa. And I know that you're dying, but I can't be here. And this is unacceptable to me. That's what Al-Anon taught me. And I walked away not feeling guilty. That I was taking care of me, and that he was in his disease and it was okay. And I left him to God. And then he called me from Puerto Rico and said, I'm sorry. If we can work together, I owe you an amends and I'll do better, but I really want to die with you. That was 31 awesome days. And I was able to say, you can die with me, and I'll die by your side. I mean, you'll die by my side. And I'll be there to handle all of your affairs, but I cannot be emotionally available for you. I don't have that to give you. I believe that that is earned. And you robbed me of that such a long time ago. And you know, I held it all the way to the moment he died. I handled all of his affairs. I made all arrangements that he wanted to have arranged. He had pipe ceremonies, and he's the chief of Al-Anon people, and I did all things. When it came time to holding his hand and rubbing his head, I didn't do that. And I can't describe to you how proud I am of that. That's what Al-Anon gave me, the gift of that. And I don't walk away from guilt from that. I am a daughter today. I am a niece today. I am a sister today. I am an aunt. I am a partner. I'm no longer working because I'm caring for so many people. I've been traveling all over the United States and Canada, carrying the message of hope. I live in the now, and today I've become a human being rather than a human doing. I live in today, in the moment. I'm always saying, God, but we could use a house, because my house is always filled up with people getting sober, and I'm in a little 2-bedroom in the valley, and I always say, what's my day like? Man, I've had to let go of so much. I love Al-Anon so much. I've had to let go of the calendar and the strict schedule and the organization and the producing of everyone's life and my life. And the trust in God and live in every second and every moment and only do what's in front of me and trust in the process as it is. I can't even tell when the rent's going to get paid. I know it's due on the 3rd. Sometimes it's not until 5 minutes until it's due that it shows up. I got no say-so in that. I remember I was sitting with a woman from Al-Anon and we were sharing, and I told her, it's about 4:45 and the phone has to get paid. But I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you because I learned to be of service. And I do what's in front of me, and you showed up at my door, so I'm sitting here talking to you and I'm doing God's work. And she said, I'd be freaking out about right now. I got to get paid in like 15 minutes. And I was like, 2 things are either going to happen at 5 o'clock. Either the phone gonna get cut off, which means I don't need to be talking to nobody for a while, or it'll get put on, it'll stay on, and then that means I gotta talk to people. And sure enough, 5 minutes to 5, the phone bill got paid. But this is my day. I don't think I've done Al-Anon justice. There's so much I want to share. I'm just so nervous. There's so much I want to share of what this program has afforded me in my life. The steps work in so many ways. God works. You know, I tell the person, if you knew, you just got to hold on and just let go of everything that you think you know, everything you think you believe. I've literally had to let go of everything and become blank and raw and just let go of every single thing that I possibly believed made sense, was right, it's the way I see it, and just been like so infant-like, so childlike, and been like, just guide me. Because even when I'm looking at a situation, that ain't what's happening. I don't know how to see. My boss tells me I did the paperwork wrong. I swear he tells me I'm incompetent, I'm a failure, and he's going to fire me. And that's not what he said. He just said I did the paperwork wrong. And I'd be like, you don't know how to run a company anyway. Disease is centered in our thinking. Man, I have to ask somebody, did he just say I was incompetent? And he's going to fire me? No. The paperwork is just wrong. I follow all of you as examples. I always say I look in the rooms and I see what a mother looks like, and what a father looks like, and what a brother looks like, and what an uncle looks like. And you women, we have danced the dance. You are my mirror. You are my shadow. You show me what a mother looks like, and what an aunt looks like, and what a sister looks like, and what a friend looks like. I have healed this relationship with my mother. It took me 9 years to make amends to my mother. That was the toughest one. Oh, I was willing. I was like, she was supposed to be a mother. And you guys told me to keep coming back and just be willing. And the day came where I was way out in Montana, and there was a woman who looked at me, and I said, I really got to work on this relationship with my mom. And she said, tell me your mother's story. And she said, tell me your mother's story. And I couldn't. And I came back and I went to my mom and I told her it had been arrogant of me to think that she should be something other than what she is. For I have not walked in her shoes and I do not know the depth of her pain. And today I continue to do this dance with my mother. I care for a woman who didn't raise me. I care for a woman who touches every core issue inside of me, and it rises, and she is my reflection in my mirror. And I put one hand in this program, and I put one hand in God. And I sit down in those meetings, and I share my experience, strength, and hope. And I listen to you of how you work on your relationships with your parents and with your qualifiers, as we say them. And I put one foot in front of me, and I trust in the process. And I clean house, and I trust in God. And I clean house, and I trust in God. And I go into prayer, and I go into meditation. And when I sit with my mother, I say, God, reveal to me what blocks me from you, so I could be of maximum service to her. Please remove from me the judgment that I have of this person. I'm so quick to judge my mother of what I think she should be and how she should act and how she should behave. Love my sponsors always saying, get rid of the shouldas. Or how my partner should behave and what they should be doing for my happiness. How selfish. And I just allow my mother to be. And I allow myself to be, and I allow myself to have an experience. And then there are times I allow myself to go, okay, Mom, I have to go now. Because my mother will go out of her way that I never do enough. To this day, I never do enough for her. Even all the stuff I've done for her and for my uncle, my mother will turn around, anybody in this room, and tell you that Theresa ain't done nothing. She'd be like, you weren't there when your uncle died. I'm like, yeah. I was kind of like the only one, Mom. No, you weren't. Okay. Mind my business, man. That's Al-Anon. Mind your business. All right, Mom, I can see how you see that. Does it hurt me? Yes. Do I still want to be the good little girl and I want her to acknowledge me? Yes. I'm true to my feelings and I get honest, but I share them in a safe place. I don't beat my mother upside of the head with it and make her do it. That's what Al-Anon taught me. And so here I stand. A girl who's about emotionally 16 going on 17. And that's okay. A woman who is in the process of healing. You told me it's not about perfection. It's about spiritual progress. I get to get rid of the perfection robe and I don't have to carry the world on my shoulders. I could make mistakes. I learned that making mistakes make me human. And I put one foot in front of the other and I trust in this program and in this process of recovery. And I stand with dignity, with self-respect, with self-love. You gave me the gift of joy and laughter. I know how to laugh today and have fun. You gave me the gift of hope, compassion, forgiveness, courage. That's what the program is. Serenity and peace. And a loving God of my own understanding. And you allow me to give back what was so freely given to me, and I get to be of service and I show up for others without question, and I do it joyfully. Joyfully. What would I be if you guys weren't here? And very quickly, this is my day. I say I'm going to buy a blouse. I feel like buying a blouse today. But somebody shows up or they call me on the phone and I talk to them on the phone and I'm there of service and I am present for that conversation. I'm not tapping my foot wanting to go buy a blouse. I'm present for that conversation. When we get done, I hang up and I get ready to buy the blouse, but then somebody shows up at the door. And so I sit down and I talk to them. And I am of service and I'm present in that conversation. And then we get done, they go, hey, where are we getting ready to go before I got here? I said, I was going to go buy a blouse. And they go, hey, I'll go with you. Cool. We start heading out to go and we're driving out and they go, hey, there's 4 people walking up to your house. And I go, okay, park the car. And they park the car and then I go in and I'm of service. And at the end of the day, someone always shows up and they go, hey, I was at the store and I saw this blouse. And I was thinking of you. You guys, I cry because I'm so full. I sit in my room and I look at the ocean, and it may not be a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to me. Every morning I wake up, I am grateful for another breath. It may not be a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to me because I remember the times that I woke up and I was so praying that I wasn't breathing. When I have conversations with you and you stand before me and I look at you in your eyes, it may not be a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to me. Because there were times that I couldn't look at anybody's eyes. I can only walk with my head down. When you hug me and I feel safe, it may not be a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to me. Because anytime anybody approached to touch me, I would flinch and I swore you were coming to hurt me. And I come in this program and you taught me it was okay to hug and you didn't want anything else back from me. When I see you not gossip, when I see you respect one another, it may not be a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to me because you're teaching me what it is to be in unity and in fellowship with one another. And how to support each other and hold each other up.
how to not be judgmental. It may not be a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to me. And this is the only place that I've come to that I have found the safety and the love that I have been seeking all of my life. That I knew that somewhere deep in there was something that was loving and that was good and meaningful for me to live today, one day at a time. And that is this fellowship. And you gave me the gift of gratitude, and I will forever be grateful for this program. I am going to keep coming back. I'm going to stay humble, stay teachable, stay willing, open and honest, and in conscious contact with this higher power so that I can live one day at a time, free, and no longer in a state of hopelessness and despair. Thank you so much.